Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and today we are painting our bicycle project out of our farmer's market mini workbook.
Ah.
Um, this is a newer product that we have. I'm going to be painting through it on YouTube. If you want to join us, you can get the farmer's market mini workbook on at letsmakeart.com. If you don't want to buy the workbook and just want to paint along, feel free to. Just you can sketch it yourself, not a big deal at all. Um, the whole point of this mini workbook was basically I just wanted something quick and low stress and just kind of fun for you to play and experiment and try new things and like get your creative juices flowing without having to commit to a full big session of painting. Okay.
All right.
So we're going to be doing this project in 5 steps. Our very first step is we're going to paint the body of the bicycle. Second step is we're going to paint the basket and the seat. Our third step is we're going to paint like the wheels and the spokes and the pedals. Our fourth step is we are going to paint the florals and foliage. Our fifth step is we'll just add some textures or last minute details on this. Okay.
All right.
I'm using liquid watercolors here. These are our in-house paint brands. I really love liquid watercolors because of their vibrancy. They are dye-based as opposed to pigment-based, which allows them to be like really, really bright. And I love painting with bright colors. And actually, that's what really started me on my watercolor journey was playing with and painting with liquid watercolors. Their vibrancy was so fun that I just wanted to paint everything. There's nothing worse when you go to paint something and the colors are just like, "Brr, brr," and then
Mhm.
you're like, ew.
Ew. Yuck.
Now I have learned to appreciate dusty colors and I really love them also. But when I first started, I wanted bold and bright and colorful and vibrant. And so this really did that for me. We have a set that goes along with this workbook. You can also find that at letsmakeart.com. Now, if you're not familiar with liquids, this was from our last painting session, and you can bring them back the same way that you can tube watercolors or pan watercolors. So we're going to start with the first step, and we're going to paint the body. And I'm going to actually use a round two. And then to bring them back, you just add water. That's it. Now, the color I'm going for here on this bike is a turquoise. So I have some blue already here on my palette. I have some green already mixed, which was when I mixed my yellow and my blue together. So I'm just going to utilize the colors that are already there and I'm going to paint with that. The biggest thing that you want to remember when it comes to liquid watercolors is when you use the paint straight, like let's say you pour some liquid and it's like a puddle there, and you only use that puddle and you don't add water to it, you're basically using the watercolor in its most concentrated form. And if you do that too much, then the paint actually starts to fuzz out and create a fuzzy edge texture. And that's because it's not supposed to be used that way. You're supposed to add water to it to dilute it to create different values. Okay.
All right.
All right. So I added some water to this mixture. Now I have this cute, like turquoisey color. Oh my gosh, Michael,
The oath.
the oath. What am I doing?
I,
Put your paintbrush
I
down.
had one job. I'm sorry.
You had one
I was
job.
transfixed.
It's okay. We can do it now.
All right.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
I promise to have fun. God, that could have gone so bad,
Thank you.
No
I
oath.
know. I know.
It's like
What
no
would we
seat.
have done?
It's like no seatbelt.
You guys would have been having a horrible time comparing your work. You would have been so mean to yourself. Okay. So I'm just kind of like going through, kind of filling out the body of the back. And sometimes this is kind of nice because it's just like it's a great practice on brush control. And I hope that you guys know that I design these things and create these outlines as just a starting point. They're not the end all be all. You can adjust, you can take away, you can change things up. Now, if you want to do a little bit more in terms of like creating depth within your painting, so this blue turquoisey color, which is so cute, by the way, is kind of reading all one value. So if you want to kind of um, have a little bit more depth to it, then I'm just going to take a slightly darker value. So I just picked up a bit more paint. And then like underneath the basket, I'm going to do like an extra layer here to show that it's kind of coming out from somewhere. Same thing with like, you can do, underneath the seat a little bit, or this area that's kind of behind the bar. Maybe where the bars kind of meet, there'll be a little bit of a value change. And so sometimes just like putting in that little extra value makes it pop just a little bit more as if there was some shape to it. Or if you don't like it, then you can just paint the whole thing in that value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's your painting. You can literally do whatever you want. Okay. I think I got all the. Oh, wait, I didn't do the handlebars. Let's do that. Just a little hint of them. This one you kind of just barely see through the foliage. Okay. Now we're going to paint the basket. So I'm going to mix brown. So brown is essentially dark orange. So I'm going to take some tangerine that I already have here, and I'm going to mix it with some black. And then if you want the brown to lean more orange, then you can mix more yellow and tangerine into it. If you want it to lean more red, you can mix some magenta into it. There's actually lots of different browns with different color undertones, so you can mix other colors in there to match that undertone. If it's reading too much of a color that you don't want, then you just mix that color's complement. Complementary colors are colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. So red and green, orange and blue, and yellow and purple. So if your green is reading, if your brown is reading green, if you add like red or pink to it, that's going to neutralize the green and make the green, neutralize the brown and make the brown less green
Got you.
because you added green's complement. Am I making sense?
Yes. I love how you had to like essentially go all the way down the chain of what things were
I
eventually going to
know.
be
I
like.
just realized that like I said one thing and then I'm like, what if they don't know what that? Okay, let's
You're like,
explain that.
color is the phenomenon that your brain associates with different wavelengths of light.
Exactly.
We get all the way down.
Okay. So I have a brown here. I added some water to it. I'm gonna let's make it a little bit more like red. I don't know. I like a red orangey brown. That's my type of brown. Okay. So I'm still gonna use my round 2, but if you want to switch to a round 6, you can. Okay. So there's my seat, and then I'm gonna add brown to my basket. And I'm going to start by painting the whole thing, this lighter value, and then I'll go in and add a darker value along the edges of the basket and the seat, and that's going to give me that sense of dimension. Don't be afraid of these little kind of blooms or things that happen uneven. All of that kind of stuff actually really lends itself to the finished painting. And so you will have a tendency to want to like even those out by working the brush area over and over again so it's nice and smooth. I'm asking you to try not to, just to see what happens. You can get really interesting color mixtures, textures, all of that kind of stuff by really just letting the paint be and not trying to control every aspect of it. Okay. Okay, now we're going to ignore that and we're going to paint like the gray portions of our um, basket here. So I have a little bit of gray that's not touched. So I'm just going to add some water to that, pull it over here. So you basically just take black and add water to it for gray. That's it.
That's easy.
Using that gray, I'm going to paint the petal. Now I'm going to paint, here's the thing about outlines, okay? Is I have like the spokes of the wheels here, and my outline is gray. So if you wanted to, you could go over the spokes, but you can also just like not because of how thin they are. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
I'm actually going to get some fresh black on here because it's reading kind of tan. And I think it's just because I had that brown right next to that. There we go. Okay. So again, if you wanted to do the spokes, you can. It would be like if you have a liner brush, it would actually probably be better to do a liner brush, but you want to do like really light pressure. And also the thing about like really thin metal things, like I want you guys to think almost like a spider web. The depending on how the light is hitting it, some parts of the metal are going to like stand out compared to others, or like some parts of the spokes. And that's just because of how thin it is. And so, whenever you do like these really thin detail lines on anything, you don't have to do a thick, strong, consistent line across because that actually makes it thicker than it needs to be and creates a little bit more substantial form than is true to the how it's made up. And so usually I'll just do like a little hint of it. And let's say you want to like add spokes that aren't on the outline. It's the same kind of thing where I'm just going to have it line up with the center and not be afraid to kind of lift my brush. And that automatically is going to create a feeling like a highlight or a shadow on it and give it a little bit more shape that is true to how we would see it in real life. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And then I'm going to do a little bit of like a shadow on the top of this tire, but I kind of wanted the tire to feel like it's white, like those cute old school bikes.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of doing a soft kind of shadow on some of these to show that it has some depth and dimension, but overall it's more of a white tired bike. You can do just black if you want to, though. Like this is your painting. And I'm just going to say this out loud just to make you guys feel better. Whenever you paint round things, and this is true for bikes or cars or anything that has like round tires or something like that, and you're trying to like paint sections or edges or the whole thing, they're really tricky to get right because it's really hard to paint a circle that is evenly around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you're going to get a couple moments where there's maybe a little bit of wonk to your circle. And to that, I just say, you know what? That's just part of painting circular things. Like, it's just tricky. So give yourself a little bit of grace. Like right there, that's a weird chunk that then just changed the overall shape of my tire. But when that happens, I kind of just like leave it. If you have some like white paint that you can like, thin it out or kind of adjust, feel free to. But sometimes trying to smooth out a mistake creates more attention to that mistake. So usually I'll just like paint it and then move on. I'm just going to paint the edge of these petals to give them some dimension here too. Now I'm going to go back to the baskets and just do the darker value. You could have done this while you painted the whole things, but sometimes it's easier just to let sections dry. So I'm just taking another layer of brown and just kind of painting the parts of the basket and the seat that are kind of turning away from the light and therefore creating a little bit of a darker value. Oh my gosh, wouldn't this bike be so cute as like pink
Yes, it would.
or yellow?
Yeah.
Ugh. Okay, now we're gonna paint the florals. And this part's really fun because we're really gonna celebrate wet on wet. So I still have some orchid here on my palette. I'm gonna grab some magenta. And you guys can play with like any kind of colors that you want. I'm gonna do like pinks and orange and purples. So let's start with some magenta. Make sure you add some water to this. but let's like wet an area or two, and then I'm gonna just take magenta and drop it in. And then you can also like drop in some orchid on top of that. The other thing that you can do is after you've wet an area with color, you can actually just pull that color and smear it into another area completely. It's not going to have the same kind of like it's going to lighten in value when you do that, but that's good. We like different values within our painting. It creates depth and dimension. I'm also going to add some like orangey pinks. So I'm going to take magenta and my lemon yellow and just like kind of drop that in there. And again, I'm letting the colors flow. I'm letting the water color do the work for me and just kind of move on its own. And I'm not trying to control it. And most of the time, when you can just let the water go and spread and move, it's going to do really cool things. Like, look how pretty this is.
It's so pretty.
It's so pretty. Maybe you want a flower that's more yellow. Okay, let's do a yellow flower. Oh, that's so pretty. Look at that.
Love it.
But this is really, I'm being really gentle here with my colors. And by that, I'm not fully picking up all this liquid watercolor and coloring it evenly. I'm letting the water actually do a lot of this work for me. So don't forget the water. The water is a huge part of watercolor. Oh, it's so gorgeous. Let's do, these are like little flowers kind of coming off here. I'm gonna do like a peachy pink, so a little bit of yellow in there. And remember, like outlines are just the start. So if you want to add more florals and are even here on this painting, like feel free to. This is your painting. I love that.
Super cute.
Okay, we're gonna let this dry and I'm gonna add the green. So while this is drying, I'm gonna take some yellow and some blue and I'm gonna mix green. Now, if you like your greens to be more turquoisey in color, then you would just do more of a blue mixture. If you like your greens to be more bright in color, then or like warm, then I'm going to do more yellow with my green. You also can get earthy greens by taking blue, yellow, and adding like orange. That's going to give you more like a brown green. Okay. All of these greens are welcome. And I like to use them all. So usually I mix a couple different like varieties of green and then I just start painting them in. But the variations in the green are really what make the areas like interesting. The same way that this flower area feels really beautiful because of the variation in colors. That rule is true for greenery also. I've noticed that people have a tendency to really want to have all of their greens be the same type of green, but that makes something feel a little bit flat. And also, I mean, if you guys, I mean, go out and look at nature, look at all of the different kinds of greens that you see, um, or go to a flower shop and notice, you know, some greens lean like gray, some lean brown, some lean blue, some lean yellow. Like it's fun to try and capture all of that variation. And I'm just going to add some leaves kind of coming off here. There might be more. Okay. Now our very last step is I'm going to add some texture onto my basket. So I'm going to take this same brown. I'm going to mix a tiny bit of black in there just to get a darker brown. And then I'm going to think about like the woven texture that baskets have. And it's basically like space, like you're going to do vertical or horizontal lines that have a space. And then in between those spaces, you're going to do vertical. And it's going to be like that. And also, so I'll do that a couple of times just to show you. The other thing that you can do if you're just like not into that patterning is just pick up paint and then take your paintbrush and dab it on a paper towel or cloth. It's going to soak up that extra moisture. And then you're just going to do some dry brush. That wasn't very dry. But the dry brush just creates this kind of chattery texture, which works really great for baskets or trees or feathers or like any kind of texture that you want to add. I'm actually going to do a darker edge here because I kind of lost my shadow. Like that.
This looks just like the bike that came with our garage. You remember that bike?
No,
When we bought our house, they left a lot of stuff, but they left a bike that looked just like this.
really?
Yeah, it
What
was
did we
hanging.
do with it?
I think we gave it away eventually, but it was hanging on our ceiling in our garage for years, right by your car.
Oh, what a cutie bike. And then if you want to do little flower petals and textures in here, you can, or you can just leave it, whatever you want. Sometimes I like doing just like a little hint.
Cute.
And there we go.
So
That's
cute.
it. That's our cute little bicycle. I hope you have fun with this, and I hope that you can see. And again, my goal with things like this is I really think we've done a disservice societally in how we have approached fine art in the way that I think that we have made a decision that art has to be very serious and it has to be solving problems and like, a commentary on society and all of that kind of stuff. Is that valid? Yeah, it's a really big deal. And it's super important to appreciate art that does that. There's nothing wrong with that. But because we've created this sense that's the only art worth making, people have stopped making art. And so I just want to show you that like it doesn't have to be serious and it doesn't have to be painful and it doesn't have to be a commentary on anything. It can literally you sitting for 20 minutes taking some color and playing, and that is just as valid. And I think that when we allow ourselves to do that, we then actually create and have hobbies and be human because that is creativity is the like one of the huge benefits of being human. And I think that as adults we just don't engage because it's scary, because it's hard, because it will look bad, because it's not serious, because it's all of these things, because it takes time and it takes money. And we come up with all of the reasons why we shouldn't take the time for creativity. And at the end of the day, the only thing that we are hurting is ourselves. Being able to be creative is inherently human. It is such a big it has such a big impact on your day-to-day life, on your mental health, on how you see the world, on how you are in the world. And I just really feel like everyone has the right to have those benefits. And so let's just start easy. Let's start small. Let's start somewhere. Let's have fun and let's make something. Let's
Let's
make
make
art.
art.
Anyways, thank you for taking the time to paint with me. It really is just fun. If you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. We'll see you guys later. Bye.